Fresno, California. It looks peaceful, but at night, the city reveals its darker side. We explored 3 of its most haunted places. Chandler Airport, where ghostly footsteps echo after the plane stopped flying. Fresno Funeral Home, where silence is broken by whispers from the beyond. And Carrillo's bar, where a night worker appears after midnight, but no one knows her name. We didn't just hear stories, we felt them, and something might have followed us home. This is Witch Dark Tales podcast, titled Chandler Airport, Funeral Home, and a Haunted Bar. 3 haunted Fresno locations locals warn you not to visit after dark. Hello, witches and norms. Welcome to Witch Dark Tales podcast. We're your host. I'm Moon Witch.
Miguel.
And tonight, podcast, we're going to 3 places. Right now, we are at the Chandler Airport, where allegedly it's haunted. But keep watching. And in our second place, we're going to go to the Fresno Funeral Chapel, where the story of a girl who haunts that place because due to unaliving with her and her boyfriend. But there's more to the story. And the third one was the Carrillo's bar right there on Temperance and Belmont or Kings Canyon. But before we get into the podcast, everything we talk about is just pure speculation, right? And even though it might not be haunted, this is just from the stories that we were told and research that we have done. You know? But with that being said, just keep watching, and viewer's discretion is advised. I totally forgot about that. And strong adult languages, and we might talk of unalivings and, like code words, but after this, we're going to use real words. But with that being said, let's just go. Ready? Come on.
I hope you enjoy it.
I hope they do, because they're going to get scared. Before we get to the haunted stories of Chandler Airport, let's get into the history of itself. In honor to Senator and Miss W.F. Chandler, whose generosity made possible the Fresno Municipal Airport. Fresno Airport Administration Building. Fresno Chandler Executive Airport is one of the oldest operating airport in California. Its history stretched back to the end of World War I. At the time, there were no aviation facilities in Fresno, California. Recognizing the problem, Mr. Wilbur F. Chandler and his wife Edna Marie Globe allowed pilots to take off and also land in their field once the crops were harvested. The pilots would call the site Chandler Field. The Chandlers even put effort to raise money for a permanent aviation field. In 1920s, one notable fundraiser was called the World's Greatest Aerial Circus, held at the Chandler Farm on the afternoon of Thanksgiving, 1923. Featured races, parachute jumps, and dual-wing walking. And so, in 1929, the Chandler family donated 100 acres of the land to the city as a public-use airfield. This site was named later after the family, known as Chandler Airfield, in 1929. Now that we got the Chandler Airport history out of the way, let's talk about the haunted stories of this place. Being that it's so old, countless travelers who has passed through, even dated during back World War One. Is it possible that some people decided to stay? After doing research for this haunted place, it was said that the staff witnessed a variety of ghost encounters, usually after hours. Those who even worked in the restaurant inside the airport have heard disembodied voices at night while cleaning up. A staff member stated one night he heard a rattling noise made by a wobbly plate on the countertop. The plate on the edge of the countertop fell to the floor. No one was even around for that to even happen, but the plate did not break. There was no earthquake. There was no aircraft leaving or landing. So, how was this even possible? Other haunting stories reported of people walking through the terminal walls. Can you just imagine sitting down and then you look, an apparition appears and decides to walk through the terminal walls? Ooh, just saying that gives me goosebumps. Others have witnessed an elderly man in the control tower, apparently watching invisible planes take off and land. So if you're from Fresno, California, and if you've ever been to Chandler Airport, drop down a comment, let me know. Do you believe that this place is haunted? There's something different about the silence inside a funeral home. A stillness so heavy, it presses against your skin. But at the Fresno Funeral Chapel, that silence doesn't feel peaceful. It feels like you're being watched. The Fresno Funeral Chapel was established decades ago. On the outside, it's quiet, modest, a usual place of mourning. But those who've worked here or visit late at night say this funeral home holds more than just memories. They say some spirits never made it to the other side. Before I get into the haunted story of the Fresno Funeral Chapel, I do have to say again, audio listeners and viewers' discretion is advised. There will be talk of poisoning, self-suicide, and also among other words that are being mentioned. This haunted story was sent to me by a user, and it writes, here's another story from Fresno the Hmong Funeral Home on C Street. I was attending at the funeral home for one of my family member had passed away. The owner herself told the story to my mom and I. She said the young couple that had passed away early in 2000s, the reason of passing was due to suicide because neither parents agreed to have them marry each other. So they poisoned each other. The boyfriend's funeral was elsewhere while the girlfriend's funeral was located at C Street. To the owner's knowledge, the family prepared the funeral. The lady said it was the first day of the funeral and no one was there yet. She was preparing and cleaned the home early. In the morning, they brought the girlfriend's corpse to the main hall. Only 3 or 4 family members was present, but they all left outside or went elsewhere. She didn't realize, but alone in the main hall with the corpse just mopping the floor. The corpse did not have a casket or yet anyone of her family to dress her. She was placed in the middle on the floor with a wooden board to keep the body off the floor. Within 30 minutes or an hour of her constant cleaning, she noticed on the side of the corner of her eyes, the corpse was gone. She turned to look closer. The corpse was indeed gone, but no one entered the main room. As she finished up cleaning, she saw the footprints from where the corpse was. As her mind wandered off, she was thinking the corpse woke up and walked away. But to her, that was impossible. In her head, she's thinking her family must have took the body to dress her. She went to mop the bathroom. She saw the corpse walking out from the stall, asking her, where is her boyfriend? The lady said she told her her boyfriend died and that she did too. Today is the first day of her funeral. She must move on so she can find peace. The girl cried and walked out. As soon as the lady was done mopping, she saw the corpse back in the hall as nothing ever happened. She left to look for her family and told them what she had witnessed. And for whoever is sending her off, that the girl was very confused. The funeral was cut to a day and a half. The end. A story related to this, someone left a comment and it said that they believed the couple had passed away. They committed suicide and poisoned themselves there at Lost Lake. We've talked about Lost Lake. Go ahead and check the link in the description box below or within the playlist. And I was like, wait, what? And so, when you hear scary stories and then you hear more like another story connected to it, like I said, Lost Lake, it makes you really wonder that, was this really true, It says right here, yes, I remember that story. The couple had the same last name and weren't allowed to be together. So they both decided to poison themselves in the car at Lost Lake. And I quote, all I can say is that when you hear a Hmong scary story, they just have details in them. They speak as if they were there that witnessed it. Now, whether this story was true or not, it is very scary. And I just hope that the spirits, the boyfriend and the girlfriend, find peace. So drop down a comment, let me know. And let me know what you think. I want to know what you think about this. Moving on to our last story, we will be talking about the Carrillo's bar and the wandering woman of Sanger. Before I do get into the story, Sanger is a little town outside of Fresno, but it's still considered Fresno County, where it's on the outskirts of Sanger. This location is on Kings Canyon and Temperance. and I will be referring to her as the night walker instead of the word sex worker because I don't want to discriminate or offend anyone. If you're from Fresno, listen to this. Let's talk about this true crime story time that happened on May 16th, 1993, where it was one of the worst massacre in the history of Fresno County at the time, located in Fresno, California, but also on the outskirts of town of Sanger, California, a little bar called Carrillo's Club. Carrillo's Club wasn't just a dive bar, it was a gathering place for locals in Sanger, just 20 minutes outside Fresno. But on May 16, 1993, it became the scene of a horror when someone came into the bar after closing time with a semi-automatic, unaliving 7 people, including the owner, Reyes Carrillo, his mother, his half-brother, a friend, and 3 employees, and also 2 were injured. For many years, the case remained unsolved until an inmate that was already serving time for another unaliving in Fresno, California. His name was Johnny Malarkey, and the other, Alan Helfin, allegedly. This massacre shocked the Central Valley. Survivors said it happened so fast, too fast to even react. While the unalivers was eventually caught and convicted, what they left behind was something deeper than just grief. So if you're from Fresno, California, or Sanger, California, drop down a comment and let me know, did you ever hear about this true crime story time that happened at Carrillo's Bar, here in Fresno, California, also on the outskirts of Sanger? Along a quiet stretch of Kings Canyon and Temperance in Sanger, California, sits the memory of a place that no longer exists. It was once known as Carrillo's Bar, a neighborhood bar that on a spring night in 1993 became the site of one of the deadliest mass shootings in Central Valley history. And ever since, something or someone has been seen wandering that road. A woman, alone, always walking, never reaching her destination. In the years following the tragedy, truckers and late-night drivers along Temperance and Kings Canyon reported seeing a woman walking near the old location of Carrillo's Club. She's always alone, always in silence, described as wearing a red blouse or a jacket, sometimes with torn jeans or a skirt. And when you slow down to ask if she's okay, she's gone. No trace, no sound, just empty road. Locals began calling her the Wandering Woman of Carrillos. Some say she was one of the bar's dancers, or a night worker known to be around the area, possibly even someone killed that night whose name was never made public. Others says she's not tied to the massacre at all, but was simply drawn to the pain that still lingers on that stretch road. We couldn't find any official documentation of a murdered woman haunting Carrillo's Bar, but what we did find was something just as powerful, a real tragedy, a real loss, a community that still whispers about what walks those roads after dark. Maybe she's a grief incarnate, or maybe she's looking for a ride home that never comes. With that being said, these scary stories, including its history. First, we talked about the Chandler Airport. The second, we talked about Fresno Funeral Chapel of the couple who passed away. Third, we talked about the Carrillo's Bar and its tragedy, including the night worker. So, when you think about this history, including the urban legends, it just makes sense. But then again, we do not claim that these places are haunted. We're giving you this history and you are allowed to decide on your own if it's haunted or not. I'm just here to pass the message. Now, before I end the podcast, next week's episode, me and my co-host Miguel will be going to the Fresno Fairground for the Haunt Expo, where there's haunted houses, and, other attractions. And then the girl from Chucky, the first one, the original. And then who else is going to be there? The Tale from the Crypt, Freddy Krueger. And we're going to be doing all those vlogs. So there won't be a podcast for the audio, but I suggest you go check out on YouTube for the visual podcast. Now, with that being said, blessed be my witches and norms, and please have a great night. And I'll see you guys next week on the Witch Talk Tales podcast. Blessed be everyone. Thank you for listening and watching. Bye.